Okay. Welcome again to my show. Oh my God, I love actually my every single new day because now I'm hosting show now every day because next week I will be traveling. So I try to really somehow combine quantity with quality. But sometimes quality, actually can be suffering because of quantity. But not today, not with this guest. Oh my God, I'm so happy to host the one and only my guest. And usually actually before the show start I always make sure that I pronounce correctly the name of my guests, and I forgot to ask you because we had a little bit technicality stuff, so I can start it. Do I say correctly? It's Rhett
You
Power,
got it.
right?
You
Yeah.
got it.
Okay, amazing. Then we are good. I'm on a safe zone now. So then I'm start with very cool intro. And welcome, my beautiful audience. And the title for our show today, Friday show, but very important and very special topic, of course, unlocking the full leadership potential with the on and only Red Power. Power, cool. Maybe I have to have this nickname, but you have already taken it. Welcome to another inspiring episode where we explore how I even don't know how we can like really use all the topics. I believe it was so important: diversity, equity, inclusion, how they shape in personal and professional growth, and I still choose to advocate for them. So today we have a truly transformative guest who has not only built businesses from the ground up, but also dedicated his life to empowering leaders to thrive. Our guest is Red Power. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes. He's extraordinary executive coach, a six-time founder, I believe more. He's probably shy. And a recognized thought leader in the world of entrepreneurship. Besides his numerous accolades, we don't have time to talk about all of your accolades. Red has scaled multiple successful ventures while guiding others to unlock their full potential. As a top advisor in management and startups, global speaker, best-selling author, and a member of the Marshall Goldsmith Top 100 Coaches, just one accolade I had to mention. He brings cutting-edge insights and unique approach to leadership and growth. Please welcome again. And we jump. We are not losing time anymore for any correction. So I'm sure everybody use your very useful times to get advices, very professional advices. But I would like to make maybe a little bit different focus on our show because I do believe in the power of storytelling. Because behind every great talent, professional, trailblazer, visionary, it always actually behind us. It's this still inner child, but it was one day a child who had vision, dreams, right? And
Mm.
so I would like you to welcome us to the world of Little Red. How was this boy, and how the mindset and circumstances and the way you were brought up, how actually impact your adult mindset and your choices and actually all the experience that now you're bringing to other people. Tell us about your childhood, please. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I have to say no one's ever asked that, so that's a great question.
Thank you.
I've done hundreds of these of podcasts, and so that's great. Uh, you know, a lot of people have a hard story, right? A lot of people have a story of uh, a tough childhood and rough circumstances, and but I don't. So I had a great childhood. I had my father and stepmother. My mother left when I was 2. I don't really remember it, but my stepmother came into the picture when I was about 3 or 4, um, and we had family around. So I had uh, great cousins, and I'm an only child, but I had great family around my father and my mother. stepmother were just super solid people. My stepmother was a teacher. My father worked for the state. Uh, and so we had everything I didn't want for everything. We traveled. My parents instilled in me this curiosity to see the world at 17, 16, 17. I went to Europe by myself and explored Europe. I went to work in Washington, D.C. from my small town to Washington, D.C. to work in the U.S. Senate as a Senate page, which was a thing that you could do back then for a year. Uh, my father was at every wrestling match and every football match that I ever played in. I was a good athlete, so I had that. I was a good student, decent student,
Mhm.
and we were involved in the church, and I mean, it was a very stable thing. We did things together. My father and I did a lot of hiking and running and races. So there was a good family upbringing, and a couple of the things that they instilled in me was curiosity, number one. Number two, uh, the discipline and hard work. Now, some people say, "Well, you got everything you wanted." Well, when I wanted something, I had to work for it, and
Yeah.
and so that was something that I took going into university and it really into life. Now, saying all that, I never wanted for anything. I mean, everything, if I wanted, I didn't worry about food. I didn't worry about shelter. I didn't worry about any of those things. So, my early life wasn't a struggle, but I did take away that hard work to get whatever you want, you have to work for it because things weren't given to me. If I wanted something, I remember I wanted a boat
Uh-huh.
uh, when I was maybe 10 or 11. I wanted a boat, and because we lived by the water, and so I had to work for it. I worked, 2 summers to earn enough to buy this boat. And this older gentleman in town said, "Okay, you've got this. I've got a boat. You want to buy it? Then you work for me for the next, year or so. And throughout the year, you come over, you cut my grass, you rake my yard, and clean up my yard." And I did that, because I wanted that boat. So, I learned very early if I want something, I have to work for it. And there are no shortcuts to that, right? Um, so that was my childhood, and they encouraged my desire to see the world, to explore, to do those things, and so it was a great childhood, and that way. And those are the lessons that I took from it. So
Wow, thank you so much for sharing your story, and I'm so happy to realize and experience that um, at least some of kids, they really have beautiful childhood, quite different from mine childhood, but I'm so happy that, um, I can hear that you had this very nice, solid role models, which is very at
yeah,
the very young stage, of course, made unwavering impact on you by giving unwavering support, and showed you by their role models that yes, you have to work, right? Even 10, 12 years old, you understood that if you want something in your life. And I think it's very healthy approach, because honestly speaking, I can say many teenagers now, especially in Scandinavia, where I live now in Norway, I don't know if it's okay that they kind of have everything what they want. And when I grew up, okay, we don't take all adversity and my painful childhood, but oh my god, I was dreaming about one new jeans jumpsuit. I was working hard the whole year. I was sleeping that one day Santa is coming, okay, that Maros with this one. It was holy thing for me. And I could put it in frame. I never could have it on my floor. And I teach my kids, they are still not probably kind of normal Norwegians. I have adopted them from Ukraine. It brought them every summer to interact with Ukrainian kids in normal camping places for kids from also orphanages. Like they are I'm so happy that still my kids, they have this huge list what they want. They know what they want, and they work for that. But they said, my mom, in my classroom, they don't live like that. Because when you ask now teenager, what do you want for your Christmas or birthday, they're like, Oh, right? Is it fresh
Yeah.
approach? No. So I'm so happy that you kind of had this very nice picture that your mom and dad, they used to work hard, and but dreams don't work until you don't work, right? So it's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing the story and curiosity. It's so important. That's why you could transform it now into the power and to give all this valuable knowledge to other people. But now I'm zipping up because I'm learning to listen. If I had my producer, hey, he was like, Valeria, stop talking. You need to ask the person. He is the star. So I'm like, really, with this guy, with you, I need a So uh perfect, adorable. Thank you so much. And let's go smoothly to then your career and your later but still early ages, right? And what impact shaped your choice of your career, and still then how you could transform your curiosity, still expand that. And I'm sure curiosity for me is like twin sister brother for diversity, right? Because if you are not curious, why you should embrace diversity, I believe so. But I'm not taking your gems from your mouth, so please take, just welcome your path further, how you
Yeah,
became actually, but still early stage of who you became today. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Good. Another good question, because I think all of that, all of our choices, and all of our paths. You know, I think we have a combination of luck, and we have a combination of drive, and we have a combination of vision, and we have all of that plays into in your childhood, all plays into where you end up. And I think, for me, I realized pretty early in my 20s what my values were. And
Mm-hmm.
I had um, I was part of this group in college, in university, and it was I guess what you'd consider today a mastermind or something. But it was one of my English professors gathered every semester,
Mm-hmm.
once or twice a year, gathered a couple of us of the better students, or the students he thought would contribute to this forum. And he would bring in business leaders, and he would bring in athletes, and he'd bring in other famous people, politicians. He'd bring in these famous people, or these well-known leaders, and we'd have like 2 or 3 days of philosophical discussions, and
Oh.
about life and business, and where the world was going. And it was a really eye-opening experience for me. And I did this a couple of years in a row, and I don't remember. I think it was maybe my third year in university, or and one of the leaders, we sat down at the break, at one of the lunch breaks, and we started talking. And he said, "Well, what are your values?" And I had no idea what that really meant. Um, so we talked about it, and we talked through it, and we talked about how, if you understand who you are, and you understand what is really, really important to you as a human, and what your values are, then it makes your life choices easier. It makes your path becomes a lot more clear. Your hard choices that you have to make in life are easier. Not easy, but they're easier if you make them based on your values. And so, I mean, it really opened my eyes and my mind to this whole idea that, if I understand those things about myself, then I can, accomplish what I want to accomplish, and do what I want to do. And that will in turn make me happy, which we also talked about. He and I talked about that day, about being content with your choices, and content with who you are as a person. And that contentment doesn't mean that you are complacent. It just means that you are happy with who you are, which I am. I'm happy with the human that I am. And so my values are love, curiosity, and accountability, and courage.
Mm-hmm.
And everything I've ever done is based on it. There's a thread that runs through all of those. If you look at if I look at any of the decisions I've made, the ones that I made on my value system turned out pretty well. if I compromise those, they usually don't turn out very well. And I've learned that. And so, I started I went to Peace Corps when I was after university. I did work for a few years, had a few adventures, kind of roaming around with a girlfriend, roaming around the country and working in places like Yellowstone and I was a radio DJ for for a little while, and
Oh,
then I figured out that it was time to stop playing and get to work, and so I went into Peace Corps, went to Uzbekistan as a Peace Corps volunteer.
oh,
Uh, After Uzbekistan, I taught in university there, and then after that, I went to work for USAID, working in Central Asia as a economic development person. Did time in Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, Afghanistan, all of Central Asia, and but in 2003 was really, my gut said it's time to do something different.
mhm,
I was doing something that I really loved, but it was time to create something.
mhm.
So a friend of mine and we left those jobs and went and started, and we found a one product toy company in the US. We bought that company. We turned that into a company that we sold in 2014, and it was doing over $100 million at the time. And we had turned that into a global company. And I learned a lot about myself in that first company, right? I learned what pain was. I learned what um, those lessons I had, that stability and that confidence and that's all that stuff I'd learned as a kid, the work ethic. Boy, that tested everything I believed. I mean, we were absolutely broke. We put our life savings into that company, everything, like the retirement, everything into that company. And I mean, we had to sleep in our vans at some point. We were so broke. We were doing so poorly that we were sleeping in our vans in our delivery trucks because we couldn't afford anything else. Um, but that company made it, right, and it made it because we learned, we adapted, we worked hard, we worked smart, um, but that really tested me at every level of my sanity and everything else, right? Because it's just hard, um, and when you're doing something on your own, there's no guarantee, and there's no, you don't have certainty. Although you have to project that certainty and you have to project that confidence. But I learned so many lessons about that company and myself in doing that, and that success led to other being able to do other things, to open and be part of other companies. It led to being able to write books, and it led to being on stage, and it's led to things like writing at Forbes and writing for Rolling Stone. And then we've got a new book coming out later this year on our inner dialogue, our self-talk, and how important that is to our success. Uh, so that's sort of the trajectory. I mean, entrepreneurship has, what I realize about myself is that's who I am. That's what I am. That's what I am. And so I've embraced that. Uh, I, I was a terrible. What I realized, if I look back, I was probably a terrible employee.
Oh,
Uh, I was probably a terrible employee. Um, an entrepreneurship is something that I love creating. I love building. I love that phase of ideating and creating something that's not there, that doesn't exist. Um, you know, every time I used to walk into a toy store and see a toy that we had drawn out on a piece of paper, 18 months later, it's on it's around the world on a toy store shelf. There's no better feeling in the world. There's no better feeling in the world than to walk into a bookstore and see your book on the shelf. It's that's the feeling I want to have all the time. And so um, that's what led me. That was my destiny, I think.
Oh my God, what an impressive story. And I feel just so proud of myself that I didn't interrupt you one tiny time, because I was so impressed and I wanted to put my nose like every couple of minutes. Oh my God, and me and what? But oh my God, first of all, about core values. If I could knew even these two meaningful, deep words like core values so many years ago, maybe my life would be completely different. I wish our school kids, they could have subject just once, at least per month, which is called core values. Then, oh wow, because you see, like it's game changing to figure out what it is and to live the whole life in alignment with them, right? If you know who you are, your authenticity, especially in this social media, sorry, fake world, it's so important. It's so important. And because we are craving, especially like millennial Gen Z, they are craving for authenticity because they don't understand anymore what is fake, what is not fake, what
Yeah.
you should follow somebody, how, what is the important. But because you found out, you knew, well, it doesn't matter what's happened, circumstances, they're fleeting, they change it all the time. But
Right.
you have your calling and you know who you are, and you like transfer everything what you attach to your core values, and you work hard, like you said. That's why I mean, like, you succeed because, and when you told me that it was obviously now a very successful story, very hard work and persistence, successful story, but also through the adversity, right? And how you could transform this to creative fuel because of your core values and hard job, of course, not just dreaming. But because before you mentioned that, I was thinking, like, really, is it possible, like, for me now to find out about one story person that know the adversity in the childhood, know through the career, and suddenly just success? No.
No.
Life doesn't work like that. And that's why, how you can measure now, how can you be happy that you are so successful, you are so happy now because you've been there, right? Otherwise, if you didn't have these challenges, if you didn't sleep in the van, if everything was so easy coming to you, could you really appreciate that so much? Mm-mm-mm.
I think, I get that, and I think that in general that is true. I think if my path had taken me somewhere else in a different way, I'd still be happy because I was following the path that I thought I should follow. Um, but has there been a value in that struggle? Absolutely, right. If I hadn't had that struggle, I think I'd still be the same person. But do I appreciate that struggle? And it let me know that that I have grit and I have determination. It tested all of what I thought I knew about myself, for sure.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, that's for sure. So thank you so much. It's again, like, reminding for me that yes, every great story, like, you have confirmed now. Of course, you could be still happy, still,
Mhm.
because again, I believe you already knew that everything you do, no matter you are in alignment with your core values, and you have integrity and authenticity. It's actually what makes you happy, right? Because everything can change. Again, tomorrow everything can change and be
Yeah,
taken
and
away.
it will.
You have
It will.
inside, right? What you have inside, nobody can take it from you now. It's
Yeah.
so important. Thank you so much. Let's still, like, I know diversity is the game changer, the subject of my podcast, and many people, I can tell you now, after this backlash, everything what's happening in the US now, they kind of doubting whether they should participate in my podcast, because I'm still openly, boldly use, for me, just labels, how you call it, diversity, DEI, or whatever. We cannot change that the biodiversity, all species are different. You cannot change that you and me and all people in the world have different fingertips. We cannot change it. We live united, we are strong. I do believe this is the beauty, because we are united, right? So what actually is your opinion of impact of actually us being so different and creative, anyway, inclusive environments to get, first of all, your personal life how it could impact and help you, and then we can talk. And then, of course, personal, right? And then connected with your career. How was through the whole your life was approach to other people? Because you amazing. You now mentioned like Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, and the people in the US, they I know they love it's a great country, great nation, and sometimes they even don't care to travel that much. And you could see really diverse part of the world. And I believe it's what makes you you have this great, deep, expanded mindset. But what is your reflection about being diverse? Thank
Well,
you.
look, you just said it, and it's a hallmark of who I am. I've lived in 13 countries. I've lived in Central America. I've lived in South America. I've lived in Brazil, El Salvador, Panama. I've lived in Lesotho, and I've lived in Africa. I've lived, in Central Asia, um, and to me, and I've been a CEO of a company, a couple companies, and what I've learned is diversity is what makes us strong. Um, and I'll just bring it back down to the company. The reason we were so successful is because we learned early on when we had diversity in our product development. And what I mean by that is the team that created that product, right? If it's just a bunch of guys like me I was in my 30s, now I'm in my 50s, but if it was a bunch of guys like us, like me,
Mm-hmm.
creating something, we're gonna miss it. We're
Exactly.
gonna we're gonna miss the mark. We're gonna miss the product. When the team was diverse, when it had women, it had young people, it had black people, it had Hispanic people, it had it had diversity of thought and ideas in that product. That product was usually successful, and so because diversity of thought makes the idea stronger,
Mm-hmm.
right? It tests the product in ways that one person or a group of people who have a similar idea of the world aren't going to see. It creates so many blind spots. So when you can have diversity of thought, you're stronger. You're stronger as a team. You're stronger in making product and services. You're stronger in your marketing and your ability to reach the right customer for that product. So I mean, I that was proven to me over and over and over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And so and the data, the research data, like many studies show, like diverse teams, they do better. Like they just do better, right? The ROI is very clear on a diverse team.
Mm-hmm.
So we can talk about diversity, equity, inclusion. We can talk about DEI. Um, People are maybe will probably rebrand it, but
Mm-hmm.
I was just at a HR conference last week, major HR conference in Las Vegas, and I can tell you right now, people are rebranding it because they don't want the blowback, but they're not getting rid of and they're not changing policy to have diverse teams and have diversity of thought within their organizations because they know the ROI of it. Now they might change the name of it, and they might call it something else, and they might try to, play
Yeah.
around with it. But I guarantee you, from the conversation I had with global leaders on this just last week, it it's not changing, right? It again, we may call it something else, we may rebrand it, we may bury it within the organization somehow to make it not so obvious, but we're not changing that way, particularly in corporate. Now, small companies and medium companies, and who have different political views and all that stuff, and don't have the data and the research and the experience. Maybe there's some issues there, but I think in terms of particularly big corporates, DEI. I mean, they're we want diverse teams.
Exactly. It's like it's so fun. Uh, Yesterday hosted also a guest, and we talk about Medicare, medical system, healthcare. John Gorman, who was in Clinton Obama's government, and he was, of course, about diversity because he was one black guy who was leading white guy who was leading black, and he loved diversity and he really worshipped diversity. And for me, I used already this story that, Valentine's Day is kind of big days in US, and I was invited by FinTech on the New York Stock Exchange talking about DEI, and it's my PhD subject, right? And I'm also advocate for neurodiversity because I'm neurodivergent myself.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes. Okay. You have to. Yeah. So then my last. So it was the same thing I told them because I believe they should cut me. Like, no, we don't invite you, or we should change the subject. But no, actually, we exactly was talking about that we have, it's undeniable, we are going to use it, and it will be even more now. Focus on that. Just we put it in another wrap, like, we can, like, it's another label, it doesn't matter how we can call it, but it will be, of course, diversity of thoughts. How we can eliminate that, our brain are so different. But so I know you have very, very strange schedule, so I'm so eager and appreciate that you are with us. So then I jump into last question, which is very important for me. I'm very passionate advocate about that emerging part of diversity, or it has existed always, it just was kind of stigmatized, or not kind of diversity, it was disorder. I mean, neurodiversity, it's more and more are talked about, at least in their lens, that they're not that taboo, or not just people are broke, people are not whole, it's me and them, because I have OCD and sometimes it's really severe. So instead of me thinking that I'm not good enough, I'm not worth, I'm not like normal persons, and there are so many of people, that's why I opened my show, to help people like me with all these diagnoses. So if we could reflect about this part, like how can we then create more inclusive environments and working, again, if you break down to business, right? Very simple question. If I have to apply after my PhD, for example, to work in the company, how should do you believe, is it okay that I can openly put on my resume that I have OCD, or it's still there that people it's stigmatization and taboo, that people will be like scared, oh no, we don't want to deal with this weird or awkward brain? What do you think?
I'm a realist. I think it probably hurts you to an extent. But I would say this: do you really want to work at any place where you couldn't be who you are? I mean, I know. Look, I mean, we all have to work. We all have to put food on our table. We all have to pay our bills, and so people do jobs that are not a fit. That people have to do jobs to take care of themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's a little bit arrogant for people to say, do something you love, follow your dreams, follow. I mean, I think there's reality, and then there's sometimes people have circumstances that put them in positions where they have to do what they have to do. Look, I think I wish we lived in a world where it was accepted. I wish that we lived in a world where that wouldn't be a problem. I think it probably is, but here's the thing: if you can find a place that accepts that and accepts you for who you are, that's the place you want to be, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and still I agree, and I believe that we already make the prominent hopeful movement towards, at least we already discussed this subject, right,
Yeah.
because before it was, at least I made in Soviet, come on, if I could just imagine being a student, that one day I could be talking about this subject and refer myself to that, I would be like, no, I would be dying, because for us it's still like this. But now I talk to my kids and everybody, like, it's more and more like, even people like joking, oh, I have OCD about that, oh, I have that and that. But I believe that it was always there, right? And we need people like who think, like you said, diversity of thoughts differently. And it's, again,
Yeah.
it's just our brain, how it's wired differently, and we propose the society with all these industrial invention revolutions. So I do believe actually you and all people, they have a little bit spectrum of the ADHD or something. It just
Well, I
we
have 80. Yeah, I
okay,
have.
you know, because there's so many not identified, but I'm so sure that we all are just unique. That's it. And if we, yes, if we embrace this uniqueness, we probably would never experience the war. Okay,
Well,
thank you so much. So we
I
will,
hate to go. This has been lovely. Thank you, though, very much.
yes, thank you so much, and I wish you then that you can wake up every single day and walk more time in the shops, like you said, with your books and in the toy. Are you still in this toy industry?
No,
No.
we saw.
Okay. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful weekend. Hope one day we can share the stage of public speaking and can conversate more and say, wow, now we have achieved that and that. And maybe we can see what kind of labels will be instead of DEI. It's interesting.
Thank you, Valeria.
Okay. Thank you, Rhett. Bye bye. Thank you so much. такое. Что надо? Что случилось? Что такое пришло?
Ты тоже будешь, мама.
Что буду?
Ну, Миша меня заразила же.
Не, мне улетать. Ты что, с ума сошла? Язык.
А вот ты нас. Не, мне понравилось вот это новое. Ska du gå dra med alla de här? Когда же отец приедет домой? А как он тут работает? О, спросила, когда отец приедет, пошел. А это как? А, так.